Welcome to Thursday. It is the last day of July, July 31st, 2025. Your Day Weather podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at wyomingadvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Yeah, deja vu. That's kind of what we're going to be seeing for the third day in a row. We're just going to show you the same thing. Monsoonal moisture, upslope conditions, cooler than average temperatures, and then showers and thunderstorms are going to fire up again here come late afternoon and evening. So those hummingbirds, as you're seeing there, are going to be out and about again today. This is the time of year, boy, they really seem to just be going crazy. I think a lot of folks are probably experiencing that. The monsoon surge, though, does shift eastward this weekend. We'll start to see an eastward shift tomorrow, and then certainly by Saturday and Sunday. But for you folks on the northern ring of the moisture and then out into the plains, your thunderstorm activity will still be rather robust, while in the Rockies it becomes more widely scattered to isolated. But like last weekend, there's still going to be a chance for thunderstorms to pop. Now the monsoon door opens again middle to the end of next week. So there's going to be another surge, especially around Tuesday, especially Wednesday of next week. That will probably last through the following weekend. So that will bring the thunderstorms back again. We need to watch the North Pacific. We showed you those warmer water temperatures out there, and I'll kind of show you why we need to watch it in the long term. And when I mean the long term, talking about maybe the end of August into the middle part of September. This is something that we'll watch and track as we go into the new month. Great shots of mammatus clouds rolling on in from yesterday. They were really seen far and wide. With this cooler, moist atmosphere, the mammatus clouds have a little bit of an easier time to form. The high humidity air makes them lower, makes them a little bit easier to form. So near Glendo yesterday, this is probably the same thunderstorm being viewed from south of Douglas, and then over into the Bighorn Basin around Hot Springs County in the Theropolis area. Some really neat looking mammatus clouds there. And we're going to see a similar situation today to this. We've really had this over the last several days. Once we get some sun out, get some daytime heating, the deep moisture is going to make it easy for these showers and thunderstorms to really come together. And another area of showers and thunderstorms developing along the east slopes of the Wind Rivers and moving on out into the plains. And then a mean-looking thunderstorm, prompting warnings in Natrona County with that thunderstorm billowing up. And the same areas that have seen the thunderstorms over the last 2 days, you're going to see them again. And this is how thunderstorms go. Some days they get you, some days they miss you. Thunderstorms are going to be around, and they could produce severe weather. That's some pretty good-looking hail. Well, I don't want to say good-looking hail. Large hail that we saw yesterday in the Casper Mountain area. Beautiful anvil coming on up from the development of showers and thunderstorms along the Bighorns. And we'll see, again, similar situations again today. And they will, again, be heavy rain producers. And even out into Blue Mound, Kansas, beautiful shot there. Look at that blue sky. That's what it looks like with no smoky haze. Green grass, beautiful shot there, the crops, and then building thunderstorms. Satellite photos, the title was Deja Vu. Yeah, same thing. You can see where the moisture is, where the thunderstorms are continuing this morning with the enhanced cloudiness, and then the subtropical moisture is shifting a little bit, but it's essentially in the same places, just like where it's been. And as we go through today, we take a look at the precipitable water from Oregon and Washington State curving around, the drier air punching into the deserts. You can see that the ring of moisture is going to be where the ring of showers and thunderstorms are going to want to form today, and there they are. There's a little bit maybe of an eastward shift, a little bit more to the east with the showers and thunderstorms, but they're basically going to be exactly where they've been over the last 3 days. And we do have a slight risk of severe weather. This is, again, kind of in the same area that we saw yesterday and the day before. So we need to look out for that. And there is some risk for hail today. As we saw in that photo, we've had 2 days in a row of hail photos. So you can surmise we may have more hail photos for you tomorrow, hopefully not doing any damage. So tomorrow, we start to see that basically that same ring, but it gets a little more east. The dry air punches in a little bit more, but really, when we get into the 90s and the 80s and the 100s here, when you look at these numbers, that's still plenty of moisture for thunderstorm development. But the drier air is coming into the deserts and kind of fingering its way on in. So western slope areas will see the thunderstorm activity more around the higher terrain. This is what we see for Friday, getting pushed out a little bit more to the east. And there's the risk for Friday. Further east out into the plains instead of being hung up on the divide. So that shifting of the deeper moisture will continue into Saturday and Sunday. And there's your risk for some strong thunderstorms on Saturday, more out into the plains. And you can see the drier air punch coming in from the deserts, cooler, drier air coming into the nation's midsection, bringing those folks relief from the heat. So if we take a look at the 500 millibar chart this morning, we can see that the pipeline of moisture is coming on in, the low and the high working together here. This will be a feature to talk about later on. As we go and take a look at the 5-day temperature anomalies we showed you over the last couple of days, this is from today through next Tuesday. So a large part of the lower 48 will see cooler than average temperatures from the east slopes of the Rockies all the way to the east coast and even into the Great Basin and the interior west. Temperatures are really not going to be anything to write home about for the first several days of August. When we take a look at next week, let's go into Sunday. Sunday is when we really notice a shift in the high pressure ridge. The high pressure ridge is now all the way into southwest Arizona, so follow the wind barbs, and the subtropical moisture basically gets cut off. It's got a long way to go, and it's just not going to be able to maintain itself. So you're going to see a turnoff of thunderstorms in the southwest and the southern Rockies briefly, but this trough of low pressure that we showed you up in the Gulf of Alaska will continue to feed onshore flow, and that will keep showers and thunderstorms going in the Pacific Northwest and the northern Rockies through the course of the weekend and into Monday and Tuesday, while the monsoon flow down here gets squeezed away, gets turned off for a little bit. That's Sunday, this is Wednesday. So you can surmise as the high shifts eastward, follow the wind barbs, we start to see, it starts to come back again. And then what we also start to see is a little bit of a flattening of the flow temporarily here in the Pacific, but that will still produce some lows and some energy coming through on the top of the ridge. So that will keep showers and thunderstorms going across the northern plains and the northern Rockies. Look at this, we got a trough in the central and the eastern United States. This is a problem later. Why? Because this little trough could end up producing some tropical activity. Tropical activity meaning tropical depression, storm, maybe hurricane later on as we get towards the middle of August, something that we'll keep an eye on. When we go out further, this is the weekend of the 9th and 10th. Pretty interesting scenario here. We've got another low that just kind of wants to come into the Pacific Northwest, while the high is in a good position to bring that subtropical moisture back in. So the middle to the end of next week into next weekend, we have both pressure systems drawing moisture far northward again. So that will get the monsoon plume coming back on through. But I'll tell you, the North Pacific and the higher northern latitudes for still, I mean, we're not done with summer by any stretch of the imagination. We're still into summer, but there's a lot of cold air and a lot of activity up here. And if we take a look 2 weeks from now take this with a grain of salt. I'm showing you something 2 weeks from now. But this is right around the 15th of August. Look at this low pressure system up in Canada. This is impressive. And we want to see a high pressure ridge want to form up in the Gulf of Alaska off the Aleutians here. And if that high wants to form, well, that allows these troughs in Western Canada to form and maybe to affect the United States. And that's something that when we get deeper into August and as we get into September, we start to watch. Why? Because you always kind of look for that transition from late summer into an early fall season. So we'll keep an eye on this, but this is something that might be supported by the sea surface temperature anomalies out in the Pacific. Last week we talked about those warmer water temperatures showing up in the North Pacific. That geothermal area may be making an impact near Japan. We had that big earthquake in northeast Russia, not far from all of this. And so when we take a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies, they're still very impressive. Why is that important? Because if the general tendency of the sea surface temperature anomaly here is warmer, then that allows high pressure. It makes it easier for a high pressure ridge to form, like what we're showing you right here in a 2-week time period. So that's something that will be a factor later in August and into early September when we start watching for those first cold fronts of the late summer, early fall season, just to put a bug in your ear. Have yourself a very good last day of July. We'll see you in August.